Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for my week 6 presentation on additional concepts and theories from other courses to tie into the GPA and PSML exams. So the concepts for the GPA essay I chose was pollination, which was discussed by Lisa Ellman in the TED Talk for MPA 570 in week 1, and contractarianism discussed by Thomas Hobbes in MPA 580 in both week 2 and week 3. And then for the PSML essay, I will be speaking about change management, the sociological perspective of management discussed by Rosabeth Moss-Cantor, and that was from MPA 590 week 4. And then employee engagement with regard to leadership styles and motivation, which was discussed in MPA 540 week 4. So Lisa Ellman coined the term pollination because she discussed there is a need for policymakers and innovators within society to work together rather than against each other. And this immediately made me think of cooperative federalism and the necessity to be intertwined and work together. It also incorporates other theories such as the rational method, elite theory, and game theory. The rational method applies because policymakers may think that the cost exceeds the benefit, which is why they would not be willing to adopt that innovation. There is also the elite theory that is utilized because this can be viewed as the preferences and values of the governing elite. So the elites change public policy according to what's favorable to them rather than the masses shaping the elite opinion. And then finally also the utilization of game theory. Policymakers might try and prevent their opponent, which would be the innovators, from undertaking any sort of action by inspiring fear and establishing laws and punishment to prevent innovation out of the greater good for society. So like I said, this just ties into cooperative federalism and the fact that we should be working together, pollination, policymakers, and innovation for the greater good of society. Next is Thomas Hobbes' theory of contractarianism, also known as the social contract theory. As public administrators, we enter into a social contract with society, and that we will work in the best interest of society and remove our personal interests, goals, desires. And this can be either an explicit or implicit contract. There's also the issues of defection and prisoner's dilemma once public administrators start to think of their own interests, and when it's specifically the sole duty of the public administrator to work in the best interest of society. That is your job when you decide to work in the public sector. So there could also be the tie-in of utilitarianism and how since we enter into this contract to work in the best interest of society, there could be that utilitarian aspect. So you can also tie in other ethical theories as well. The first PSML concept is one by Rosabeth Moss-Cantor and her change management theory, which she talked about in her book Change Masters. She brought a sociological perspective to management. She actually has very similar thoughts, and she can be paralleled with Mary Parker Follett, but she advised that you need to tune into your environment. So operations of an organization is an essential element on how employees demonstrate different behaviors based on whether there are particular structural supports in place. So essentially, the behavior of the individual depends on the environment within the organization. She also emphasized kaleidoscope thinking. So this means thinking across borders and boundaries as if looking through a kaleidoscope. So examining the same basic set of circumstances in 100 different new ways. She also emphasized communicating a clear vision. So communication that can also be related back to Barnard and those clear and concise lines of communication. She also believed that power is derived from both formal and informal sources. So one can be formally given a position of power and authority when they're hired into an organization or promoted within an organization. So you can be given the title of management of a certain team of like the finance department, or there's also the informal power, which is when an individual has influence over others due to their skill, expertise, and knowledge. So this could be a peer that is technically the same position as you, however you see them in a position of power because they have either been there longer or they have more knowledge and expertise that can provide you with advice. So it's someone that you look up to. She also emphasized the access to resources to meet organizational objectives and always increasing knowledge to boost productivity. So she also very much stressed efficiency and productivity. So those can also be tied in with the other theorists pertaining to efficiency, like Weber. We can make connections with Taylor. So although she is a new quote-unquote theorist, she definitely has her foundations laid in those core basic fundamental theorists. The second PSML concept would be employee engagement and leadership style. So leadership style goes hand in hand with motivation. Because if the leadership style interferes with what motivates a person, then productivity could either increase or decrease. So, for example, the path goal leadership style. This type of leadership style is working under the assumption that the individual is extrinsically motivated. So if you have employees that are intrinsically motivated, then this leadership style would not necessarily work for them. Because in path goal leadership, the leader is supposed to define goals, clarify paths, remove obstacles, and provide support. So within this leadership style, it can be connected with the theory of the expectancy theory of motivation, because followers would be motivated if they think that they can perform the task. So if they know that they can overcome these obstacles, then they will be more motivated to perform at a higher level. And you could also tie this in with the self-efficacy theory of motivation, because if a person has a higher self-efficacy, then negative feedback will entice them to increase effort and motivate them to do better. So that could tie in with the providing support characteristic of the path goal leadership. So it's really important to understand essentially how your employees are motivated, whether it's extrinsically or intrinsically, because that is how you will shape your leadership style with each individual that you interact with. So this was just one example of path goal leadership. Obviously there are there's transformational, situational, but this was just one part of employee engagement and motivation. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I cannot wait to watch yours, and the finish line is close. I'm praying for all of you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.